Global warming is the gradual increase in the average temperature of Earth's atmosphere and its oceans. There is a great debate whether it is real or just a hoax, but there are many facts and studies and data supporting that the planet is warming. In this presentation, I have researched the data showing that Arctic ice is declining, the polar ice caps are melting, the oceans are rising in level due to temperature and expansion, and that coastal land is eroding away at a rapid pace. Rising air temperatures bring heat waves and cause extreme weather events, from drought to blizzards. There are 3 major research centers regularly checking the global average temperature. Although each center uses a slightly different technique, all the results show the same 2 trends. The first is that each of the last 3 decades has been hotter than the one before. The second is that long-term average global temperature is rising. This time of year in the past, the surface of the Arctic Ocean is generally far below freezing, but this year it's warmer. The high sea surface temperatures are a result of warm Atlantic water circulating into the Arctic continental shelf seas. There are unusually high air temperatures coming from the south winds, bringing warmer water. So Arctic sea ice is at an all-time record low in 2016. Sea ice researchers don't think this year's Arctic ice record mark a tipping point, or a point where such loss becomes irreversible. Scientists did worry about reaching such a point in 2007. It was a record low, but it has since rebounded, though over long term it continues to decline. And if warming is brought under control, sea ice can grow back. A recent study has found that if emissions aren't brought under control and temperatures continue to rise, the Arctic could become ice-free during summer months by the middle of this century. This slide shows you the difference between 1980 to 2012. The thicker ice, known as multi-year ice, normally survives through the summer melt season when young ice that is formed over the winter from snow, it quickly melts. But researchers have noticed a rapid decrease in the multi-year ice. It's diminishing at a rate of negative 15.1% per decade. The average thickness of the Arctic sea ice cover is declining because it is rapidly losing its thick component. At the same time, the surface temperature in the Arctic is going up, which results in a shorter ice forming season. The rise in sea levels is linked to 3 primary factors: thermal expansion, melting of glaciers and polar ice caps, and ice loss from the Greenland and Antarctica. When seawater invades inland, it can cause many consequences, including destructive erosion, flooding of wetlands, contamination of drinking water and soil, loss of habitat for fish, birds, and plants. When storms hit land, the higher sea levels means they're going to be bigger and more powerful storms. If the area is highly populated, then it causes more monetary damage and fatalities. As water warms, it expands. All of the global changes are creating a domino effect. Warmer water equals more ice melting. So then more water is spreading and the oceans are heating, which is causing the ice to melt more. So the melting sea ice and snow caps are not getting cold enough to refreeze in the winter months. Technically, the sea has been rising since the last ice age about 18,000 years ago, but human influence has caused global warming to speed up at record levels. The biggest reason I chose this topic is because of the countries Kiribati, Tuvalu, and Maldives. They have all been threatened with rising sea levels. The Republic of Kiribati in the Central Pacific Ocean consists of 32 low-lying atolls dispersed over an area of the size of India. The population of Kiribati is 100,000 people. More than half currently live in the capital, Tarawa. Kiribati is one of the countries most affected by rising sea levels. Part of the atolls are being protected by seawalls, and people protect their communities with sandbags. At high tide, large areas experience seawater intrusion. This intrusion also affects the ability of fresh drinking water and the availability of land to grow their crops. Tuvalu is the fourth smallest country in the world. It consists of 9 coral atolls. Farming and fishing are the primary economic activities. Crops include coconuts and bananas. The islands are too remote for the development of large tourist destinations. Even though there's not a lot of attractions, it is a nice, relaxing beach that many people still visit. Maldives has been called the sinking paradise. This is larger than the previous countries. It is made up of about 1,190 coral islands in the Indian Ocean. About 200 are inhabited and 100 are tourist resorts. They depend on hundreds of thousands of tourists yearly that come for the amazing beaches, the turquoise water, and the coral reefs. The president, Mohammed Nasheed, is a well-known environmentalist. He has pledged to become carbon neutral by 2020. There are many other changes in wildlife and ecosystems on land and in the ocean. All of them are being affected by the global warming. This list touches a few points that I did not want to forget. Changes in range for where animals migrate to, the change in temperature has made things like polar bears not have anywhere to go. Changing in the timing of the natural events. A lot of species take cues from the weather and the winds and the ice and everything. So the global warming is confusing those animals. There's, a lot more forest fires now because of the drought. And then also the insects are able to invade the trees easier. There is coral bleaching occurring because the water levels are changing, the temperature is changing, the salinity is changing. The loss of the wetlands is another important factor because as the seawater invades those, it changes how the other ecosystems survive. And then there's the invasive species and diseases that can change as other areas warm up. New diseases and pests can move into those areas.